Imagine this. You're stuck in traffic, frustration rising with every second, your hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly that your knuckles turn white. A car cuts you off, and in that moment, your blood starts to boil. The anger surges, the adrenaline spikes, and before you know it, you're fuming, completely controlled by an emotion that you can't seem to shake off. But what if I told you that in this very moment, you have the power to choose something different? What if you could learn to never be bothered by someone or something again? What if you could face life's challenges with unshakable calm, no matter the situation? The ancient wisdom of Stoicism holds the secret to transforming your mindset, and today, we're diving into how you can master your emotions, stop letting anger control you, and live a life filled with peace and inner strength. But it doesn't stop there. This isn't just about managing your anger. It's about completely redefining how you approach every situation, no matter how difficult or frustrating it may seem. If you're ready to break free from the grip of anger and live a life of true freedom and peace, hit that subscribe button now and join us on this transformative journey. Let's dive into Stoicism, the key to mastering your emotions and achieving lasting peace. Part 1. Introduction to Stoicism, the path to inner peace. What is Stoicism? In a world filled with constant noise, stress, and challenges, it's easy to feel like we're at the mercy of our emotions. One moment, we're calm and collected, and the next, we're overwhelmed by frustration or anger, unable to regain control. It's a vicious cycle, one that we've all experienced at some point. But what if there was a way to break free from this cycle? A way to remain peaceful no matter what life throws your way? Enter Stoicism. Stoicism is not just an ancient philosophy. It is a way of life that teaches us to manage our emotions, face adversity with grace, and find peace within ourselves, regardless of external circumstances. Rooted in the teachings of ancient Greek and Roman philosophers such as Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius, Stoicism offers a timeless blueprint for emotional mastery and personal growth. At its core, Stoicism is about accepting that while we cannot control external events, we can control our reactions to them. This is the key to true inner peace. The recognition that our emotional responses are within our power, not dictated by the actions of others or the unpredictability of life. Unlike other philosophies that focus on pursuing pleasure or avoiding pain, Stoicism teaches that happiness comes from within, from cultivating virtues such as wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. It's about embracing life's ups and downs with a calm, clear mind and choosing how we respond, no matter the situation. But why should you care about Stoicism? In a world that constantly bombards us with distractions, pressures, and emotional triggers, Stoicism offers a much-needed lifeline. It teaches us that we are not victims of our circumstances. We are empowered to choose our reactions. And once you master this mindset, you will find that your life transforms. The anger, frustration, and stress that once held you hostage begin to lose their power. You begin to live with a sense of calm that doesn't waver in the face of life's challenges. The power of perception. One of the foundational ideas in Stoicism is the power of perception. In Stoic philosophy, it's not the events themselves that disturb us, but how we perceive them. Two people can experience the same situation, whether it's a job loss, a confrontation, or a missed opportunity, and have completely different emotional reactions. One might get angry, feel defeated, or spiral into despair, while the other might remain calm, accepting the event as an opportunity for growth. Why does this happen? The answer lies in perception. The Stoics believed that our perceptions shape our emotions. They argued that we are not disturbed by things themselves, but by our judgments about those things. For example, when someone cuts you off in traffic, it's not the action itself that causes anger, but your judgment that the action is unfair, inconsiderate, or disrespectful. In the words of the Stoic philosopher Epictetus, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. By recognizing this power of perception, we take the first step toward emotional mastery. The Stoics practiced what is known as cognitive reframing, the process of viewing situations from different angles, challenging irrational thoughts, and choosing more constructive interpretations. Let's take a real-life example. Imagine you've had a challenging day at work. You've been overwhelmed with tasks. Your boss has criticized your performance, and now, as you're heading home, your car breaks down. For most people, this series of events would lead to frustration, anxiety, and perhaps even anger. But a Stoic would approach the situation differently. Instead of focusing on the inconvenience of the car breakdown, a Stoic might reframe the experience by asking themselves, "What can I learn from this?" Perhaps it's an opportunity to practice patience, to reflect on how they're handling stress, or to appreciate the small things in life that often go unnoticed in the hustle and bustle of daily existence. In this way, Stoicism empowers us to take control of our reactions. By altering our perception of events, we can choose to remain calm, centered, and peaceful, regardless of the circumstances. Why we get angry or bothered? Have you ever been cut off in traffic, or had someone criticize you at work, only to feel a surge of anger or frustration that seems uncontrollable? It's almost as if something inside us takes over, and we find ourselves reacting before we even have a chance to stop and think. So, why do we get angry or bothered by the actions of others? The Stoics believed that anger, and by extension, many of our negative emotions, comes from our attachment to things outside of our control. In essence, we allow external events, particularly the actions of others, to dictate how we feel. The moment we become attached to the idea that the world should behave in a certain way, whether it's that people should treat us with respect, or that things should go according to our plans, we set ourselves up for disappointment, frustration, and anger when those expectations are not met. Take a moment to think about this. When was the last time you got angry? What triggered that emotion? Chances are it was something you couldn't control. Someone said something unkind, or a situation didn't unfold as you'd hoped. The Stoic response to this would be, why let something you can't control affect your inner peace? The truth is, we give away our power when we allow others or external circumstances to control how we feel. The Stoic approach is to focus on what we can control: our thoughts, our attitudes, and our responses. The moment we shift our focus from the external to the internal, we begin to reclaim our power. The gap between stimulus and response. There is a powerful concept in Stoicism known as the gap between stimulus and response. This gap refers to the brief moment of time between when something happens, a stimulus, and how we choose to react, the response. The Stoics believe that this gap is where our true freedom lies. Let's break it down. When something happens, someone cuts us off in traffic, or we receive criticism from a colleague, we are immediately hit with a stimulus. In that moment, our brain processes the situation and produces an emotional reaction. It's automatic, and often that reaction is driven by our old habits, fears, and expectations. But here's the key. We have the power to pause in that moment and choose how we respond. Instead of reacting in anger or frustration, we can take a deep breath, acknowledge the feeling, and choose a response that aligns with our values. Perhaps we decide to let the incident go and maintain our peace. Maybe we choose to view the criticism as an opportunity for growth, rather than as a personal attack. The Stoics believe that the more we practice pausing in that gap, Before reacting, we begin to master our emotions and find lasting peace. It's a skill that requires practice, but with time, we become more adept at controlling our responses and less likely to be thrown off course by external events. Why you should master Stoicism. So, why should you make the effort to master Stoicism? Because it offers you the keys to a life of true freedom and peace. In a world that is constantly changing, with things beyond our control happening all around us, Stoicism empowers you to remain unshaken. It allows you to maintain inner peace, no matter the chaos outside. By adopting a Stoic mindset, you will no longer be at the mercy of anger, frustration, or the unpredictable nature of life. Instead, you will cultivate the strength to remain calm, clear-headed, and focused, ready to face any challenge that comes your way. In the next sections, we'll dive deeper into how you can build this mindset, develop daily practices, and transform your life by embracing the wisdom of Stoicism. But for now, take a moment to reflect on how you can apply these principles to your own life. If you're ready to transform your life and never be bothered by anyone or anything again, subscribe now and join us on this journey to mastering Stoicism. Let's start practicing together one step at a time. Part 2. Building a Stoic mindset, the foundation of unshakable peace. Control what you can, let go of what you can't. One of the most empowering teachings of Stoicism is the dichotomy of control. We can control only our own thoughts, actions, and responses. Everything else, the events of the world, the actions of others, and the unpredictability of life, are beyond our grasp. The key to emotional mastery, then, lies not in attempting to control the uncontrollable, but in accepting the limits of our influence and redirecting our energy to the things we can change. Imagine this. You're sitting in a cafe, enjoying a quiet moment, when a colleague comes over to share some negative feedback about your work. Your first instinct might be to feel defensive, to get angry, or to explain yourself. But the moment you recognize that this reaction is outside of your control, because you can't control what someone else thinks, you reclaim your peace. You choose to respond not with frustration, but with composure. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "Some things are up to us, and some things are not up to us." This simple yet profound wisdom invites us to ask, what is truly within my control? In any situation, the answer is always the same: our thoughts, our judgments, our actions. Here's an exercise to integrate this principle into your life. Each day, take a moment in the morning or before going to bed to reflect on the events of the day. What was beyond your control? Let it go. What was within your control? How did you respond? Did you react with impulsive emotions, or did you act from a place of calm wisdom? By focusing on your responses, your thoughts and actions, you can build a foundation of unshakable peace that no external force can disturb. The world may be turbulent, but you are the calm within the storm. Embracing the present moment. In a world that is often fixated on past regrets or future anxieties, living in the present moment is one of the most powerful Stoic practices you can adopt. The Stoics believed that peace could only be found in the present, for it is the only time over which we have any control. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote in his Meditations, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. When we fixate on the past or worry about the future, we allow our thoughts to carry us away from the present, draining our energy and peace." Consider this. When you're caught up in a stressful situation, your mind may race with what-if scenarios. What if I fail? What if this doesn't work out? What if someone criticizes me? All these worries steal your attention from the present moment, where you have the power to act. Stoicism teaches that the present is the only moment in which you can act with wisdom, make decisions aligned with your values, and experience true peace. A simple, yet incredibly effective Stoic practice to embrace the present moment is the mindful pause. The next time you find yourself feeling overwhelmed or stressed, take a deep breath, ground yourself, and remind yourself, "This moment is all I have." Ask yourself, what is within my control right now? What can I do in this moment to bring clarity or peace? The more you practice this, the more you'll find that life becomes less about reacting to the past or fearing the future, and more about responding intentionally in the now. The present is where life happens. If you're constantly looking back or forward, you're missing the richness of the moment unfolding right before you. Reframing challenges as opportunities for growth. In life, challenges are inevitable, but how we perceive them makes all the difference. The Stoics taught that challenges are not obstacles, but opportunities for growth. Every difficulty, every hardship, is a chance to cultivate virtues such as resilience, patience, and self-discipline. The famous Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. Just as muscles grow stronger when they are stretched and tested, so does the mind when it faces challenges head-on." Take a moment to think about your biggest challenge right now. Maybe it's a difficult relationship, a career setback, or a personal struggle. What if you could reframe this challenge, not as something to avoid, but as an opportunity to become better, wiser, and more resilient? For example, think of a time when you faced a difficult situation, perhaps a professional setback. Instead of seeing it as a failure, imagine how you could use that experience to learn and grow. Perhaps it teaches you humility, or it helps you refine your skills. Maybe it pushes you to be more patient or persistent. One of the most empowering Stoic practices is the habit of cognitive reframing, the ability to view adversity as a chance for growth rather than as an obstacle. This doesn't mean ignoring the pain or difficulty of the situation. Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions, but about choosing how to respond. It's about seeing that while we can't control the external situation, we can control how we use that situation to become a better version of ourselves. Journaling for emotional mastery. In the pursuit of a Stoic mindset, journaling is one of the most effective tools to develop clarity and emotional mastery. The Stoics believed in constant self-reflection, regularly examining their actions, thoughts, and emotions to ensure they were living in accordance with their values. Marcus Aurelius famously used his journal as a space for reflection. He would write about his thoughts, struggles, and the wisdom he learned from the Stoic teachings. He said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." By writing down his thoughts, he could clear his mind, confront his fears, and find peace. Journaling is a simple, powerful tool that allows you to observe your emotions, gain perspective, and reflect on your actions. It helps you understand why you react the way you do to certain situations, and how you can choose to respond differently next time. Here's how to start. Morning reflection. In the morning, ask yourself a few questions. What are the things I can control today? What challenges might I face, and how can I reframe them as opportunities for growth? How can I approach today with a calm and positive mindset? Evening reflection. At the end of the day, write down, what did I do well today? What virtues did I practice? Where could I have responded more stoically? What lessons can I learn from today's experiences? By consistently journaling, you train your mind to focus on what's important, to reframe challenges, and to stay grounded in your values. Over time, journaling will become a powerful tool in building your emotional resilience and mastering your reactions. The power of memento mori, remembering the impermanence of life. Stoicism teaches that life is fragile. One of the most profound Stoic practices is the reminder that we will all die someday. While this might sound morbid, the Stoics believed that remembering our mortality helps us live more fully and with greater purpose. The phrase memento mori translates to remember that you will die. This reminder is not meant to make us anxious or fearful, but to help us live with intention. When we acknowledge that time is limited, we begin to see every moment as precious. We become more grateful for what we have and mindful of how we spend our time. Imagine living each day as if it were your last. What would you do differently? Would you waste time on petty anger or frustration? Or would you focus on what truly matters, your relationships, your personal growth, your peace of mind? The Stoic practice of memento mori invites us to reflect on the impermanence of life, not as a source of fear, but as a catalyst for living with greater intentionality and clarity. Living a life of virtue, the Stoic path to fulfillment. At the heart of Stoicism lies the pursuit of virtue. The Stoics believed that virtue is the only true good, and that living in accordance with virtue is the key to happiness. The four cardinal virtues of Stoicism, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, serve as a guide for how we should live. Wisdom teaches us to think rationally and act in accordance with reason. Courage enables us to face adversity without fear. Justice calls us to treat others with fairness and respect. Temperance helps us practice self-control and moderation. The pursuit of these virtues allows us to live a life of meaning and fulfillment. It is through virtue that we can transcend external circumstances and find inner peace. As you begin to build a Stoic mindset, remember that this is a lifelong journey. The wisdom of the Stoics is not something you learn once and then forget. It is a practice that requires consistent reflection, action, and effort. You may not always get it right. There will be times when you lose your temper or react impulsively. But with each mistake, you have an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to become more resilient. Stoicism doesn't promise an easy life. It promises a meaningful life, one in which you are in control of your emotions, actions, and destiny. The more you practice, the more peaceful and unshakable you will become. Part 3. Stoic Exercises, Practicing Daily to Strengthen Your Mind. Introduction to Stoic Practices. Turning Philosophy into Action. One of the core ideas of Stoicism is that philosophy isn't just something to study, it's something to live. The ancient Stoics didn't merely theorize about how to live a good life, they practiced it. Every day, they engaged in exercises that helped them build resilience, maintain inner peace, and develop their character. In the fast-paced, emotionally charged world we live in, we often forget that true peace comes not from avoiding life's challenges, but from meeting them with wisdom, courage, and self-discipline. This is where Stoic exercises come in. These practices, simple yet profound, give you the tools to strengthen your mind and transform your emotional landscape. Imagine waking up every day with a sense of calm, clarity, and purpose. Instead of reacting to life's chaos, you respond with wisdom and peace. Stoicism isn't about suppressing your emotions, it's about mastering them. It's about turning every obstacle into an opportunity for growth. Through regular Stoic exercises, you build the mental muscles necessary to do just that. Negative visualization. Preparing for the worst to embrace the best. One of the most powerful Stoic exercises is negative visualization, the practice of imagining the worst-case scenario. It may sound counterintuitive, but by actively visualizing loss, hardship, or misfortune, you prepare yourself for life's inevitable challenges. The goal isn't to dwell on negative outcomes, but to reduce the fear of them, making us less likely to be rattled when they occur. The Stoic philosopher Seneca described this exercise as a way of preparing for adversity. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. By mentally rehearsing the worst that could happen, whether it's the loss of a loved one, a job setback, or the death of our dreams, we learn to accept that life is unpredictable. But more importantly, we learn to appreciate what we have in the present. Example practice. Each morning, take 5 minutes to visualize the worst-case scenario for the day ahead. What if you lose your job? What if a loved one falls ill? What if you miss an important opportunity? Allow yourself to experience the emotions that arise from these thoughts, but then take a step back and remind yourself, I cannot control everything, but I can control how I respond. This exercise doesn't dwell in despair. It builds resilience. When the worst does happen, you will already have emotionally prepared for it, making the reality far less painful. Journaling, reflecting on your thoughts to gain clarity and control. In the world of Stoicism, journaling is more than just a habit. It's a tool for self-discovery and emotional mastery. Every Stoic philosopher, from Marcus Aurelius to Epictetus, wrote down their thoughts as a means of reflection and growth. Journaling allows us to track our progress, understand our emotions, and examine how we respond to life's challenges. It's like a mirror for the soul, showing us both the areas where we're excelling and where we need improvement. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, would often write in his meditations to remind himself of the principles he sought to live by. In one of his most famous quotes, he wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Through journaling, you can regularly check in with yourself, ensuring that your thoughts align with the virtues you want to cultivate. Example practice. Start your day with a brief reflection. Write down your goals, any challenges you anticipate, and how you want to approach them. In the evening, reflect on the events of the day, what went well, what didn't, and how you can improve. This practice helps you identify patterns in your thinking, and you can use it to adjust your approach going forward. If you're struggling with anger or frustration, your journal might reveal the underlying triggers, giving you the power to address them consciously. The practice of self-control, cultivating temperance and moderation. Stoicism teaches the importance of temperance, the ability to moderate our desires and actions. In a world filled with temptations, distractions, and excess, temperance is the key to inner peace. Stoics believe that true happiness comes not from external pleasures, but from self-control and virtue. Seneca warned against the dangers of indulgence, saying, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." By practicing self-control and moderation, we are able to direct our energy toward what truly matters, our personal growth, our relationships, and our purpose in life. Example practice. Identify one area of your life where you can practice more moderation. It could be your eating habits, your screen time, or your spending. Set clear boundaries for yourself, and each day, challenge yourself to stick to them. If you feel the urge to indulge in something you know is excessive, pause and ask yourself, is this helping me live a virtuous life? Practice temperance by choosing moderation, knowing that each small victory brings you closer to your goal of inner peace. Mindful pauses, taking a moment to reflect and choose your response. In our fast-paced world, it's easy to react impulsively without thinking. Yet, the Stoics believe that our true power lies in the space between stimulus and response. That moment of pause, where we have the opportunity to reflect before reacting, is where we can choose to act with wisdom and calm. Epictetus emphasized that we must control the way we respond. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Stoic exercises train us to pause before reacting, so that we can respond in ways that align with our values, rather than being driven by our emotions. Example practice. Throughout the day, set small reminders to pause before responding to any situation, whether it's a stressful work task, a difficult conversation, or a minor irritation. Take a deep breath and give yourself a moment to think. What is the wise response here? By practicing this mindful pause, you begin to replace knee-jerk reactions with thoughtful, intentional responses. Daily reflections. Learning from your experiences. At the end of each day, the Stoics would engage in self-reflection, an opportunity to examine how they lived according to their principles. Seneca writes, "A good character is not built in a day. It's built one moment at a time." Self-reflection helps us become aware of our patterns, successes, and areas for improvement, allowing us to refine our approach and align more closely with Stoic virtues. Example practice. In your journal, take 5 minutes before bed to reflect on the day. Ask yourself, did I act with wisdom today? How? Did I face any challenges that I reframed as opportunities? How did I respond to difficult situations? Was I in control of my emotions? By consistently reviewing your actions, you begin to develop a sense of accountability. Self-reflection becomes a powerful tool for self-improvement, helping you stay on track with your Stoic journey. Living in accordance with nature, embracing life as it comes. One of the fundamental teachings of Stoicism is that we should live in accordance with nature, accepting the natural flow of life without resistance. The Stoics believe that we are a part of a larger, interconnected universe, and that by accepting the world as it is, we can live harmoniously and with peace. Marcus Aurelius beautifully expressed this idea. Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart. This Stoic mindset invites us to embrace life's challenges and changes as natural events, not as burdens to resist. Example practice. Each day, take a moment to connect with the natural world, whether it's taking a walk outside, observing the changing weather, or simply breathing deeply and appreciating the present. Let go of the need to control every aspect of life, and instead, practice acceptance of whatever comes your way. By living in accordance with nature, you'll find that peace arises naturally, even amidst life's chaos. The final Stoic exercise, memento mori, remembering our mortality. The practice of memento mori, remembering our mortality, is one of the most profound Stoic exercises. By contemplating the inevitability of death, the Stoics believed that we could live more fully, appreciating each moment as precious. Instead of fearing death, they saw it as a reminder to live with purpose and clarity. Epictetus urged his students to live as if each day were their last, knowing that life is short and time is a gift. The reminder of our mortality can inspire us to live with more intention and gratitude. Example practice. Take a moment each day to reflect on the fleeting nature of life. Remind yourself that today is a gift, and that the things that seem so urgent or troubling now will one day be forgotten. This practice doesn't encourage fear or sadness. It encourages appreciation for the present moment. By incorporating these Stoic exercises into your daily routine, you build the mental fortitude to navigate life with peace, wisdom, and strength. Stoicism is not a one-time practice. It's a continuous journey of growth and reflection. The more you engage with these exercises, the more they will shape your character, transforming you into someone who is unshaken by anger, frustration, or adversity. In the next part, we'll explore how to apply these Stoic principles to your emotional responses, learning how to deal with anger and frustration in a way that leads to true peace. If you're ready to continue your Stoic journey and master your emotions, subscribe to this channel. Together, we'll continue uncovering the timeless wisdom of Stoicism and apply it to our everyday lives. Part 4. Transforming Anger. Stoic Wisdom Applied. The root of anger. External events versus internal responses. Anger is a universal emotion. From the frustration of a missed opportunity to the irritation of a rude comment, anger can manifest in many forms, often at the most inconvenient times. But what causes this feeling? Is it the external events, the people who upset us, or is there something deeper at play? The Stoic philosopher Epictetus reminds us that it is not the events themselves that disturb us, but how we perceive and react to those events. In his words, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This simple yet profound idea shifts our entire understanding of anger. Think about a time when you felt angry. Perhaps it was a confrontation with a friend, a colleague cutting you off in traffic, or a frustrating setback in your plans. On the surface, these events seem to trigger our anger, but if we take a step back and reflect, we begin to realize that our judgments, our beliefs about the event, are what fuel the emotion. We decide that something is wrong, unjust, or unfair, and as a result, we allow anger to take hold. The Stoics taught that anger is a result of attachment to something outside our control. Whether it's the actions of others, the flow of traffic, or an unexpected setback, we often expect life to unfold according to our wishes. When it doesn't, we get angry. But here's the secret: we don't need to give that power away. By focusing on what's within our control, our thoughts and our responses, we take back the reins from anger and reclaim our peace. To apply this Stoic insight, start by observing the moments when you feel anger rising. Instead of reacting immediately, ask yourself, what is my judgment about this situation? What am I attaching myself to? Real-life example: a colleague criticizes your work in front of others. Your immediate reaction might be anger, feeling embarrassed and disrespected. But with Stoic wisdom, you can pause and reframe the situation. Perhaps your colleague's criticism is a reflection of their own frustrations, or maybe it's an opportunity for growth. By shifting your perspective, you take back control of your response and avoid succumbing to anger. The Stoic practice of reframing, changing your perspective on anger. One of the most powerful tools in Stoic philosophy for transforming anger is the practice of cognitive reframing. Cognitive reframing involves changing the way you interpret or view a situation. Instead of viewing a frustrating event as a personal affront, you begin to see it as an opportunity for growth or a challenge that's within your power to handle. For example, when you're stuck in traffic and feeling your patience wear thin, try to reframe the situation. Rather than seeing it as a frustrating delay, reframe it as a chance to practice patience and self-control. Seneca, one of the leading Stoic philosophers, wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Reframing allows you to maintain mastery over your own emotions, turning what would be a source of anger into a moment of inner peace. Here's a step-by-step guide to cognitive reframing when you feel anger bubbling up. Pause and breathe. The first step is to give yourself a moment to breathe. Anger is often an immediate, impulsive reaction. By pausing and breathing, you create space between the stimulus, what happened, and your response, how you choose to react. Identify the judgment. What is your judgment about the situation? What beliefs are fueling your anger? Perhaps you're telling yourself that the other person was disrespectful or inconsiderate. Recognizing this judgment is key to transforming your emotional response. Challenge the judgment. Once you've identified the judgment, ask yourself, is this judgment accurate? Are there other ways to interpret this situation? Is it possible that the other person was having a bad day or did not intend to offend you? Reframe the situation. Now that you've examined the judgment, reframe the situation from a different angle. Instead of feeling wronged, choose to see it as an opportunity for growth or as something outside your control. For example, you might tell yourself, "I can't control their actions, but I can control how I respond." Act with wisdom. With a clearer, more grounded perspective, you can respond wisely. Rather than reacting with anger, choose a response that reflects your values, whether it's compassion, patience, or assertiveness. Example practice. You're running late for an important meeting and you miss the train. Instead of getting angry at the situation, reframe it as a chance to practice patience. This small shift allows you to take a deep breath, find another way to the meeting, and remain calm in the face of inconvenience. The role of forgiveness in Stoic peace. Forgiveness is another cornerstone of Stoic wisdom. In many cases, anger stems from the way we hold onto grudges or resentment. We may feel hurt by someone's actions, and as a result, we carry that anger with us. But the Stoics teach us that holding onto anger not only poisons our peace, but also gives the person who wronged us more power than they deserve. Epictetus wisely said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Forgiveness is about letting go of the emotional weight you carry and freeing yourself from the emotional attachment to the wrong done. It's not about excusing bad behavior. It's about freeing your own heart from the chains of anger and resentment. Here, how to apply forgiveness in the Stoic way. Acknowledge the hurt. Recognize the emotional pain or anger you feel in the moment. Stoicism doesn't ask us to suppress our emotions. It asks us to observe them without becoming consumed by them. Reframe the situation. Ask yourself whether holding onto anger will serve your peace. Is this person's mistake or hurtful behavior something that you can let go of for your own benefit? Reframe the situation as an opportunity for personal growth rather than a source of frustration. Choose peace. Recognize that forgiveness is a choice. It is an act of taking back control over your own emotions. When you choose forgiveness, you are choosing to release the emotional burden and reclaim your peace. Release the grudge. Finally, let go of the grudge. It doesn't mean you condone what happened, but it does mean you are no longer allowing the event to control your emotional state. Real-life example. Imagine you've had an argument with a close friend. They said something hurtful, and you're holding on to the anger. By practicing Stoic forgiveness, you can reframe the situation and recognize that the anger is only hurting you, not them. Letting go of the grudge allows you to restore peace in your heart and move forward with the relationship. Transforming anger into productive action. Stoicism teaches that anger, like all emotions, can be transformed into productive action. Instead of letting anger control you, Stoicism invites you to use it as a motivational force. This doesn't mean acting impulsively or rashly, but rather using the energy of anger to channel your focus into something that aligns with your values. Consider this. When someone criticizes your work or your ideas, you might feel a surge of anger. Instead of lashing out or withdrawing in frustration, use that energy to improve your work, to strengthen your resolve, or to stand firm in your beliefs. Anger, when directed appropriately, can fuel productive action and self-improvement. Seneca wrote, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality." The practice here is to take action when anger arises, but to channel it into something constructive. When you feel anger, rather than letting it control your behavior, pause and ask, "How can I use this energy to improve the situation?" Example practice. You've been given a piece of feedback that frustrates you. Instead of letting anger take over, pause and ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I use this feedback to improve? By reframing your anger as a tool for growth rather than a trigger for frustration, you transform negative energy into a positive force, embracing the power of acceptance. One of the most profound Stoic exercises is acceptance. The Stoics teach that anger often arises from our resistance to what is. We expect things to go our way, and when they don't, we get upset. Acceptance, the ability to embrace the reality of the moment without resistance, is the key to transforming anger into peace. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, often reflected on the power of acceptance, writing, "What is not good for the beehive cannot be good for the bee." In other words, acceptance of life's events as they are allows us to align with the natural flow of the world. Here's how to practice acceptance. Acknowledge the reality of the situation. Instead of fighting against what's happening, acknowledge it for what it is. If a situation isn't in your control, accept that it's part of life's flow. Let go of resistance. When you resist what is, you create more suffering. Acceptance means letting go of your desire for control and embracing what is with calm resolve. Reframe the situation. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I grow through this challenge? By accepting what is, you open yourself up to new possibilities for personal development. The power of Stoic wisdom in transforming anger. In applying Stoic wisdom to anger, we learn that anger is not the problem. It's our judgment and response to it that causes harm. The key to mastering anger lies not in suppressing it, but in transforming it. By reframing the situation, forgiving others, and using anger as fuel for growth, we reclaim our peace and take back control over our emotions. The Stoic journey toward peace is ongoing, but with consistent practice, you will find that your emotional responses no longer govern you. Instead, you will master your emotions, responding with clarity, wisdom, and inner calm. Anger doesn't have to be your enemy. When transformed through the lens of Stoicism, it becomes a tool for personal growth, self-discipline, and inner peace. Part 5. Stoicism in Practice. Real-life examples of mastery. Philosophy, when practiced, becomes more than a set of abstract ideas. It transforms into a powerful tool for navigating life's challenges. In this section, we will look at how Stoic principles can be applied in real-life situations. The ancient Stoics didn't merely write about the power of reason, resilience, and emotional mastery. They lived these values, and in doing so, they became models of inner peace and wisdom. Stoicism, at its core, is about transforming our thoughts and actions to live in harmony with nature and reason. It's about understanding that we cannot control the world around us, but we can control how we respond to it. The Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus didn't just teach their students the wisdom of living virtuously. They embodied it through their actions, even in the most turbulent times. By examining the lives of these Stoic giants and others who have embraced Stoic principles, we see how these ancient teachings hold the key to overcoming modern-day struggles. In this section, we will explore real-life examples of people who, through the application of Stoic wisdom, transformed their personal and professional lives. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who practiced what he preached. No figure in history exemplifies Stoicism more profoundly than Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor whose reign spanned from 161 to 180 AD. Known for his wisdom, humility, and self-discipline, Marcus Aurelius was more than just a ruler. He was a philosopher in action. His private writings, later compiled into a work known as Meditations, reveal a man constantly striving to live by Stoic principles in the face of immense personal and political turmoil. Marcus Aurelius faced numerous challenges throughout his life: wars on the frontiers of the Roman Empire, plagues, and internal political strife. Yet, throughout it all, he remained committed to the Stoic ideals of wisdom, courage, and justice. One of the most remarkable aspects of Marcus's character was his ability to remain grounded and composed under pressure. In his meditations, he often reflects on the impermanence of life and the importance of focusing on what truly matters: virtue and inner peace. He writes, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Real-life example of Stoicism in action. During his campaign against the Germanic tribes, Marcus Aurelius faced the constant threat of war, death, and disease. But despite the chaos, he remained focused on his duties and upheld the Stoic belief that one must act justly and virtuously, regardless of the circumstances. His leadership during this period was not driven by a thirst for power, but by a commitment to serve his people with wisdom and integrity. In the face of personal loss, Marcus practiced resilience and acceptance, reflecting on the fact that life is brief and death inevitable. His writings served as a constant reminder to himself and others that true power lies in the control of one's thoughts and reactions, not in external events. The life of Epictetus, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, exemplifies the power of Stoicism in overcoming adversity. Born into slavery, Epictetus endured unimaginable hardships, but rather than succumbing to despair, he used these challenges as opportunities for growth. He learned that true freedom lies not in external circumstances, but in the ability to control one's inner life. Epictetus's teachings centered around the idea that we cannot control our external circumstances, but we can always control our reactions. He famously taught, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." This philosophy helped him to transcend his condition and ultimately gain his freedom. Even after being freed, Epictetus continued to live with the same humility and discipline that characterized his life as a slave. Real-life example of Stoicism in action. In his famous work, The Discourses, Epictetus encourages us to focus on what we can control and let go of the rest. This Stoic perspective is especially powerful in times of hardship. For instance, Epictetus's own life was marked by suffering, yet he refused to let his circumstances define him. When he was mistreated, he chose not to be angry or resentful, but to accept what happened and use it as an opportunity to strengthen his character. One of the most profound teachings of Epictetus is his belief in the power of choice. Even in the most difficult situations, he argued, we always have a choice in how we respond. He said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." For Epictetus, our responses are always within our control, and this insight gave him the strength to rise above his circumstances. Seneca, finding peace in a chaotic world. Seneca, the Roman statesman and Stoic philosopher, is another shining example of someone who applied Stoic wisdom to his daily life. Unlike Marcus Aurelius, Seneca was deeply involved in the political landscape of Rome, serving as an advisor to Emperor Nero. However, despite his high status, Seneca remained committed to Stoic ideals and frequently wrote about the importance of virtue, self-discipline, and inner peace. Seneca's life was filled with struggles, including exile, political intrigue, and personal loss. Yet, through it all, he continued to practice Stoicism, writing extensively about the importance of finding peace amid chaos. He believed that true wealth lay not in material possessions, but in the cultivation of a virtuous life. In his letters, Seneca frequently speaks about the power of inner peace and the importance of maintaining a clear mind in times of turmoil. He writes, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." This is a powerful reminder that the quality of our time is more important than the quantity, and we must not waste it on anger, frustration, or resentment. Real-life example of Stoicism in action. Seneca's famous writings, particularly his letters to Lucilius, offer timeless advice on how to navigate life's difficulties with grace and wisdom. In one such letter, he reflects on how to deal with anger, suggesting that we should immediately turn to reason and self-reflection when confronted with frustrating situations. By practicing patience and forgiveness, Seneca teaches us that we can overcome negative emotions and find peace even in the midst of conflict. Modern-day Stoics, applying ancient wisdom to contemporary life. While the Stoic philosophers of the past left us with a treasure trove of wisdom, Stoicism is far from outdated. In fact, its principles are just as relevant today as they were centuries ago. Modern-day Stoics, from business leaders to athletes, have embraced Stoic philosophy to overcome challenges, improve their emotional resilience, and maintain focus in the face of adversity. Real-life example. Consider the life of Tim Ferriss, a well-known entrepreneur and author of the 4-Hour Workweek. Ferriss frequently writes and speaks about how Stoic principles have helped him deal with stress, failure, and uncertainty in his own life. One of his most powerful practices is negative visualization, the same Stoic exercise that Seneca and Epictetus used to reduce anxiety and increase appreciation for the present. Ferriss advocates for imagining the worst-case scenario in order to gain perspective and reduce fear of failure. By practicing Stoic principles, Ferriss has found that he is able to approach challenges with a clearer mind, and instead of being paralyzed by fear, he takes deliberate action. Another example is Ryan Holiday, author of The Obstacle is the Way, who has popularized Stoic principles in the modern world through his writing and speaking. Holiday often discusses how adversity can be transformed into an advantage, echoing the teachings of Marcus Aurelius and Seneca. For Holiday, Stoicism isn't just a theoretical philosophy, it's a practical toolkit for dealing with the inevitable difficulties of life. Applying Stoicism to leadership. Inspiring others with inner calm. Stoicism isn't just a personal philosophy, it's also a leadership philosophy. Great leaders, both in history and in the present day, often embody Stoic values of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. By practicing Stoic principles, they are able to maintain composure in times of crisis, act with integrity, and make decisions that are rooted in reason, not emotion. Real-life example. Nelson Mandela, one of the most revered leaders of the 20th century, exemplified Stoic qualities in his leadership. Throughout his years in prison, Mandela practiced self-discipline, patience, and forgiveness, choosing to focus on the larger goal of reconciliation rather than personal revenge or resentment. His ability to stay calm under pressure and remain committed to his values despite overwhelming odds made him a symbol of Stoic strength. In the business world, Howard Schultz, the former CEO of Starbucks, is another leader who has publicly embraced Stoic values. Schultz has spoken about how his experiences growing up in a poor neighborhood inspired him to lead with compassion and integrity. His leadership style is rooted in justice and empathy, qualities that align closely with Stoic principles. Schultz emphasizes the importance of serving others, treating employees with respect, and maintaining emotional balance during turbulent times. The power of Stoicism lies in its practicality. It is a philosophy that helps us navigate life's challenges with wisdom, resilience, and calm. By studying the lives of Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, we see that Stoicism isn't just about intellectual understanding, it's about application. The Stoics turned their wisdom into daily practices that helped them become better people, better leaders, and more emotionally resilient individuals. The modern-day Stoics who embrace these same principles, whether in business, leadership, or personal life, show us that Stoicism is just as relevant today as it was thousands of years ago. It provides us with the tools to master our emotions, build mental toughness, and live a life rooted in virtue. If you are ready to take Stoic philosophy off the page and into your life, remember, your power lies in how you choose to respond to the world around you. Just as the Stoics transformed their lives through action, you too can master your emotions and build a life of inner peace. Part 6. Living a life of virtue. The Stoic path to fulfillment. In a world driven by external rewards, wealth, status, and power, the Stoics offer us an entirely different view of what it means to live a fulfilling life. For them, virtue was the highest good, and everything else, no matter how tempting, was secondary. The Stoic philosophers taught that true fulfillment doesn't come from external achievements but from living in accordance with virtue. Virtue, derived from the Latin word virtus, meaning excellence, is the practice of living in harmony with the highest ideals of human behavior. For the Stoics, this meant cultivating qualities such as wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. These four cardinal virtues form the cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, and it is through the deliberate practice of these virtues that we find our true purpose and happiness. This section will explore how these virtues can be applied in our daily lives, helping us lead a life of integrity, balance, and peace. By cultivating virtue, we are not just building our character but also aligning ourselves with the natural order of the world, allowing us to live harmoniously with ourselves, others, and the universe. The four virtues of Stoicism: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. The Stoics emphasized four cardinal virtues that serve as a guide to living a life of virtue and fulfillment. These virtues are wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. Each virtue provides us with a framework for navigating the complexities of life, making decisions that reflect our highest values, and maintaining emotional balance in the face of adversity. Wisdom, the virtue of understanding and rational thought. Wisdom is the ability to make sound judgments based on reason and logic. For the Stoics, wisdom isn't about acquiring knowledge for its own sake. It's about understanding how the world works and applying that knowledge to live a virtuous life. Wisdom helps us differentiate between what is within our control and what is not, guiding us toward actions that align with nature and reason. As Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." Wisdom involves both knowing what is right and acting accordingly. It's about understanding the big picture, seeing beyond immediate gratification or momentary impulses, and making decisions based on long-term well-being. Real-life example of wisdom in action. Imagine you're facing a challenging situation at work. A deadline is approaching, and your team is under pressure. In this moment, wisdom might involve taking a step back to assess the situation calmly rather than reacting impulsively with stress or frustration. It means understanding that your emotional response to stress may cloud your judgment, and instead, you focus on solutions, delegating tasks effectively, and maintaining clarity in the midst of chaos. Practical exercise. Reflective question. When faced with a difficult decision, ask yourself, what is the rational, virtuous choice here? Consider the long-term consequences of your actions and whether they align with your values. Daily practice. Start your day by reflecting on one area of your life where you can apply more wisdom, whether it's managing your time, dealing with a challenging conversation, or responding to an unexpected event. Practice responding with clarity rather than reaction. Justice, the virtue of fairness and respect for others. Justice is the Stoic virtue that centers on treating others with fairness, respect, and compassion. It involves acknowledging the inherent dignity of every individual and acting in ways that support the common good. For the Stoics, justice isn't about seeking rewards for good deeds or punishing wrongdoers. It's about fulfilling our roles in society and being mindful of our impact on others. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best way to avenge yourself is to not be like that." This Stoic insight teaches us that justice isn't about seeking retribution or revenge. Instead, we should act with fairness, kindness, and understanding, even in the face of mistreatment. Real-life example of justice in action. You may have encountered a situation where you felt wronged by someone, perhaps a colleague or friend. In this situation, justice isn't about holding onto anger or demanding vengeance. It's about responding in a way that reflects fairness, such as having an open conversation to address the issue or choosing to forgive and move forward. Practical exercise. Fairness practice. In your interactions today, make a conscious effort to treat others with fairness and respect, especially when it's difficult. Ask yourself, am I acting with integrity? In situations where you feel wronged, practice forgiveness as a way of aligning with the Stoic virtue of justice. Empathy practice. Try to see situations from others' perspectives. Before reacting in frustration, take a moment to ask yourself, what circumstances might they be facing that I'm unaware of? Courage. The virtue of endurance and bravery in the face of adversity. Courage is the ability to face challenges head-on, despite fear or discomfort. It's not about being fearless. It's about acting in accordance with our values, even when it's difficult or uncomfortable. Courage allows us to persist through adversity, make difficult decisions, and stand up for what is right, no matter the consequences. Seneca famously said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Courage enables us to face the uncertainty of life with the resolve to pursue what matters most. It's about facing our fears and moving forward with purpose, even when the path is unclear. Real-life example of courage in action. Think about a time when you had to make a tough decision, perhaps standing up for a friend or colleague, or confronting an uncomfortable truth. Courage may have been required in those moments to do what was right, despite the potential challenges or discomfort it brought. In these moments, courage allows us to act from a place of integrity and moral strength. Practical exercise. Identify fear. Reflect on one area of your life where you feel fear or resistance. This might be a difficult conversation, a major decision, or stepping out of your comfort zone. Practice courageous action by facing this fear head-on. Affirmation. Start your day with the affirmation, "I have the courage to face whatever challenges come my way with wisdom and strength." Temperance. The virtue of moderation and self-control. Temperance is the virtue of self-control and moderation. It involves recognizing when we are overindulging, whether in food, drink, work, or emotions, and practicing restraint. Temperance helps us live a balanced life, avoiding excess and cultivating moderation in all areas of life. Epictetus wisely said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Temperance is not about denying pleasures or living ascetically. It's about knowing how to enjoy life's pleasures in moderation and maintaining control over our impulses. Real-life example of temperance in action. Imagine a scenario where you've been working hard on a project, and you feel the urge to reward yourself with an indulgence, perhaps a big meal or a day of relaxation. While this might seem harmless, the Stoic practice of temperance would guide you to assess whether this indulgence is truly in alignment with your long-term goals. Is it helping you grow, or is it merely an escape? Temperance involves making choices that serve your best interests in the long run, not just providing immediate gratification. Whether it's exercising, managing your time wisely, or practicing restraint in your spending, temperance helps you find the balance between indulgence and discipline. Practical exercise, moderation practice. Identify one area in your life where you tend to overindulge, whether it's food, technology use, or emotional reactions, and commit to practicing temperance in that area. For example, if you often snack excessively, try setting specific times for meals and snacks, and observe how it feels to exercise control. Mindful eating or drinking. The next time you enjoy a meal or drink, practice mindful moderation. Focus on savoring the experience and recognizing when you've had enough, rather than overeating or overdrinking. Living in accordance with virtue. A daily commitment. Living a life of virtue is a daily practice. It's about making small, consistent choices that align with your values and continuously striving to grow in wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. The more we practice these virtues, the more they become ingrained in our character, shaping the way we interact with the world and others. The Stoics taught that virtue isn't just a one-time achievement, it's a lifelong journey. They didn't expect perfection, but they did expect consistent effort. Every day is an opportunity to practice living virtuously, to apply Stoic principles to our thoughts, words, and actions. Remember that true fulfillment doesn't come from external achievements or fleeting pleasures. It comes from living in accordance with virtue, from aligning our actions with our highest ideals. The more we cultivate wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance, the more we become the best version of ourselves, and in doing so, we find true fulfillment. Part 7. The lasting impact. Achieving peace and freedom from anger. In the hustle and bustle of everyday life, anger can easily become a constant companion. Whether it's the small irritations of the day or larger, more significant injustices, anger often arises as an automatic response. But Stoicism, as a philosophy of emotional mastery, offers a pathway to lasting peace, showing us that anger does not have to rule our lives. Through the practice of Stoic principles, we can achieve not only temporary emotional relief, but freedom from anger altogether. This section is not about merely managing your anger. It's about completely transforming your relationship with it. By mastering your emotional responses through Stoic practices, you can cultivate a sense of inner peace that is unshakable, no matter what life throws your way. The Stoics believe that true freedom comes when we free ourselves from the chains of anger, frustration, and other negative emotions. And as we embark on this final chapter of our Stoic journey, we will uncover the practical exercises and mindset shifts that can help you achieve this state of peace. The Stoic approach to anger, viewing it as a choice. One of the fundamental insights of Stoicism is that anger is a choice. This realization, when truly understood, can be profoundly liberating. Unlike the common belief that anger is a reflexive, uncontrollable emotional outburst, Stoic philosophy teaches us that we have the power to choose our emotional responses. It is not external events that make us angry, but our judgments about those events. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This quote encapsulates the essence of Stoic emotional mastery. We control how we respond to external events. When something happens that triggers anger, we have the opportunity to pause, reflect, and choose a different response. Anger is not a fate imposed upon us. It is a judgment we make about the world. When we realize this, we take the first step toward emotional freedom. Real-life example. Think of a time when you became angry at someone's words or actions. Perhaps a colleague insulted you in a meeting, or a friend made a rude comment. Your automatic response might have been to feel hurt or angry, but in reality, this response was not a direct consequence of the person's words. It was a result of your interpretation of those words. The moment we recognize that our judgments fuel anger, we can begin to dismantle the emotional reaction and replace it with a calm, thoughtful response. The power of self-reflection. The key to transformation. To fully master anger, we must regularly practice self-reflection. Reflection is the act of stepping back from our immediate emotional responses and examining the deeper beliefs and judgments that trigger those reactions. It's about gaining insight into our own thought patterns and identifying where we have been attached to certain outcomes or expectations that are beyond our control. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, was a master of self-reflection. In his meditations, he constantly examined his thoughts, actions, and reactions, striving to align himself with Stoic virtues. He understood that to be free from anger, he had to be mindful of his thoughts and consciously redirect them. As he wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." This means that our emotional world is shaped by our thinking patterns. If we constantly entertain thoughts of anger, resentment, or victimhood, we will find ourselves trapped in a cycle of negativity. Practical exercise. To transform your relationship with anger, start by practicing daily self-reflection. In the morning, set an intention to be aware of your emotional responses throughout the day. When you feel anger arise, pause and ask yourself, what am I reacting to? What judgment am I making about this situation? Is this judgment true, or can I view this situation from a different perspective? At the end of the day, reflect on the moments where you felt anger. In your journal, note the circumstances, your immediate reaction, and whether there was an opportunity to respond differently. This practice will help you develop greater awareness of your emotional patterns and give you the tools to shift your responses. The Stoic practice of negative visualization. Preparing for anger. One of the most effective Stoic exercises for transforming anger is negative visualization. This practice involves imagining the worst-case scenario in any given situation. By mentally rehearsing the worst outcomes, we can prepare ourselves emotionally and reduce the impact of those outcomes when they happen. Negative visualization helps us practice acceptance, which is key to Stoic emotional mastery. In terms of anger, negative visualization works by allowing us to anticipate potential triggers, such as being criticized, insulted, or rejected. When we imagine these situations in advance, we can prepare our minds to respond calmly and rationally, rather than reacting with impulsive anger. Seneca writes, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." This is the essence of negative visualization. We often imagine the worst possible outcomes, which fuels our fear and anger. By practicing visualizing these scenarios in advance, we take away their emotional power and realize that we can handle whatever comes our way with grace and composure. Example practice. Each morning, spend a few minutes practicing negative visualization. Imagine a situation that usually triggers your anger, perhaps an argument with a family member, a difficult conversation at work, or a stressful situation. Mentally rehearse the event. And instead of imagining yourself reacting with anger, picture yourself responding with calmness, clarity, and rational thought. The more you practice this, the more equipped you will be when these situations arise in real life. The role of compassion and empathy in overcoming anger. While Stoicism is often associated with emotional control and detachment, it also emphasizes compassion and empathy. The Stoics believe that understanding others, suffering, and recognizing their inherent humanity could significantly reduce our anger and frustration toward them. Marcus Aurelius reflected on the importance of seeing others as part of the same interconnected universe. What is not good for the beehive cannot be good for the bee. When we encounter people who upset or frustrate us, we can practice empathy by considering their circumstances, their challenges, and their perspective. Often, people act out of their own pain, fear, or ignorance, and by recognizing this, we free ourselves from judgment and anger. Compassion allows us to see the bigger picture and respond with patience and understanding. Real-life example. Imagine a situation where a colleague behaves rudely toward you. Instead of immediately reacting with anger, practice empathy. Consider what might be going on in their life. Perhaps they are dealing with stress, personal issues, or insecurity. This understanding can help you respond with kindness instead of reacting with frustration or hostility. The next time you feel anger arising, take a moment to pause and reflect. What might this person be going through? Instead of focusing on their behavior, try to connect with their humanity. This doesn't mean excusing poor behavior, but it does mean approaching the situation with compassion, which can significantly reduce the power of anger. One of the central themes in Stoicism is acceptance, the idea that peace comes from letting go of the need to control everything around us. So much of our anger stems from a deep-seated desire to control other people, situations, or outcomes. When these things do not unfold as we expect, we react with frustration and anger. The Stoics teach that the key to inner peace lies in recognizing what is within our control and what is not. Acceptance means acknowledging that while we cannot control the actions of others or the outcomes of events, we can control our reaction. The moment we accept this, we can let go of anger and frustration. Epictetus said, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." This quote encourages us to focus on what we can control, our thoughts, emotions, and responses, and to accept everything else as it comes. When we stop trying to control others and the world around us, we free ourselves from anger and gain peace. Real-life example. Imagine a situation where a friend or family member disappoints you. Instead of getting angry or resentful, practice acceptance. Acknowledge that you can't control their behavior and choose to focus on how you respond. By letting go of the need to control, you free yourself from the emotional burden of anger. Living with memento mori. One of the most profound Stoic practices for achieving peace and freedom from anger is the concept of memento mori, remembering our mortality. This practice involves reflecting on the fact that life is fleeting and our time here is limited. By contemplating our own impermanence, we gain perspective on what truly matters and let go of trivial frustrations. When we face the reality that life is short, we begin to see that anger and resentment are luxuries we can no longer afford. Every moment is precious, and we do not want to waste it on negative emotions. Memento mori reminds us to focus on what is truly important, our relationships, our personal growth, and our pursuit of virtue. Each day, take a moment to reflect on the impermanence of life. Consider the things you are holding on to, whether it's anger, grudges, or frustration, and ask yourself, is this worth my time? When we remember that our time is limited, we naturally prioritize peace, wisdom, and love over petty grievances. The freedom to live without anger. By applying Stoic practices to our relationship with anger, we can achieve lasting peace. Anger no longer needs to control us. Through self-reflection, reframing, acceptance, and compassion, we gain the tools to respond to life's challenges with clarity, wisdom, and peace. The journey to mastering anger is ongoing, but with consistent practice, we can cultivate a sense of inner tranquility that remains unshaken by external events. The Stoics teach us that true freedom lies in our ability to choose our responses, choosing peace over anger, reason over impulse, and virtue over frustration. As you continue on your Stoic journey, remember that the goal is not perfection, but progress. Every step you take toward emotional mastery is a step toward greater peace, greater resilience, and greater freedom. Throughout our journey into the wisdom of Stoicism, we have explored how this ancient philosophy teaches us to transform anger and emotional turmoil into tools for growth, inner peace, and emotional resilience. By following the path of the Stoics, men and women who faced personal hardships, political intrigue, and intense adversity, we've seen how they used Stoic principles to navigate life's challenges and find strength in the face of hardship. At the heart of our exploration, we've witnessed the story of a character who, like many of us, found themselves at the mercy of external circumstances. This character, let's call him David, faced immense challenges throughout his life. A demanding job, difficult relationships, personal setbacks, and moments of deep frustration. Much like the anger we often feel when things don't go our way, David's life was frequently controlled by emotions, particularly anger. But through his journey into Stoicism, David learned how to master his emotional responses, gradually transforming his anger into wisdom and his frustration into calm. In the beginning, David was much like many of us. He experienced life's everyday frustrations with an intensity that often left him feeling helpless and drained. Whether it was traffic jams, frustrating colleagues, or relationship issues, David felt the tight grip of anger on his life, holding him back from peace and fulfillment. He reacted impulsively, often feeling justified in his emotions, believing that external circumstances were to blame for his inner unrest. However, through his exploration of Stoic teachings, David realized something profound. Anger is a reaction, not a reflex. Anger arose from his judgments about the situations around him, not from the events themselves. As Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This realization was the turning point for David. He began to see that while he couldn't control the actions of others or the events in his life, he could control how he responded to them. From this insight, David began his journey of self-mastery. He started with self-reflection, journaling daily to observe his emotional triggers and understand where his reactions came from. Every time he felt anger rising, he would pause and ask himself, "Why am I angry? What is my judgment about this situation? Is there another way to view it?" Through this practice, David began to reframe his thoughts, seeing challenges not as attacks on him but as opportunities for growth. The next step in David's transformation was learning the power of forgiveness and compassion. Stoicism teaches that holding onto resentment and grudges only poisons our own peace. David realized that by holding onto anger, he was allowing others to continue affecting his life, long after the initial incident. The act of forgiving didn't mean excusing poor behavior. It meant freeing himself from the emotional chains of resentment. Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, captured this idea perfectly. While we are postponing, life is happening. David learned that by letting go of grudges, he could stop postponing his own happiness and embrace the present with compassion. One of the most powerful moments in David's journey came when he practiced negative visualization. In the past, he would have panicked at the thought of something going wrong, whether it was a project falling apart or a personal setback. But through negative visualization, David began to prepare himself emotionally for the worst-case scenarios. Rather than fearing failure or disappointment, he embraced the idea that everything, no matter how difficult, could be handled with grace and resilience. This Stoic exercise helped David reduce his fear of loss and failure, giving him the emotional freedom to live more fully, without the constant worry of what might go wrong. But it wasn't just about accepting what life threw at him. David also learned the importance of taking action. While Stoicism teaches us to control our inner responses, it also calls for us to act with integrity and purpose. The Stoics believed that virtue, acting according to wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance, was the highest goal in life. David found that when he responded to situations not with frustration or anger, but with clarity and wisdom, he felt a sense of empowerment and fulfillment that was much more satisfying than any external success or recognition. As David embraced the four cardinal virtues, wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance, he found himself becoming more equanimous. Wisdom allowed him to think rationally in the face of difficulty. Justice gave him the strength to act with fairness, even when it was hard. Courage pushed him to face his fears and move forward, even when the path seemed uncertain. And temperance helped him find balance, avoiding the extremes of excess and deficiency. These virtues, once integrated into David's daily life, became the foundation of his inner peace. Through this journey, David realized that happiness wasn't found in external validation or material wealth. It was found in the control of his mind, the cultivation of virtue, and the practice of resilience. He understood that life would continue to present challenges, but now, instead of being overwhelmed by them, he could meet them with a calm resolve. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." By changing his thoughts, David had transformed his entire experience of life. In the end, David's story teaches us a profound lesson. The greatest freedom lies not in controlling the world, but in mastering ourselves. By practicing Stoic principles, we can reclaim our power over our emotions, cultivate resilience, and find true fulfillment. The journey is not about perfection. It's about progress, taking small steps each day to become more virtuous, more peaceful, and more aligned with our deepest values. The deep lessons from David's journey and how to apply them to your life. David's story is not unique. It is the story of every one of us. We all encounter challenges, frustrations, and moments of emotional turmoil. But David's transformation through Stoicism offers powerful lessons that we can apply to our own lives. Lesson 1. Anger is a choice. The first lesson is clear. Anger is a choice, not a reflex. We cannot control the actions of others, but we can always choose how to respond. Stoicism teaches us to pause before reacting, to question our judgments, and to reframe situations in a way that serves our peace. By practicing mindful self-reflection and reframing, we gain control over our emotions and reduce the power of anger in our lives. How to apply it? The next time you feel anger rising, pause. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, what am I reacting to? What judgment am I making? Is there a more constructive way to view this? With time and practice, you will find that you can choose peace over anger, clarity over frustration, and wisdom over impulsivity. Lesson 2. Forgiveness is freedom. Forgiveness isn't about letting others off the hook. It's about freeing yourself from the grip of anger and resentment. Holding onto grudges only poisons our own peace. As Seneca said, while we are postponing, life is happening. Don't waste time holding onto anger. Let go of the past and give yourself the gift of inner peace. How to apply it? Identify any grudges or resentment you are holding onto and choose to forgive. This doesn't mean condoning hurtful behavior. It means choosing to free yourself from the emotional burden that keeps you trapped in the past. Lesson 3. Negative visualization helps us embrace the present. When we visualize the worst-case scenarios, we take away their power. We reduce our fear and become more resilient when challenges arise. By practicing negative visualization, we learn to face adversity with strength and clarity instead of fear. How to apply it? Set aside time each morning to mentally rehearse a difficult situation you might face. Imagine the worst possible outcome, then prepare yourself emotionally to respond with calm and grace. By practicing this daily, you will find that you approach challenges with more confidence and acceptance. Lesson 4. Virtue is the path to fulfillment. True fulfillment doesn't come from external success, but from living in accordance with virtue. Wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance are the Stoic virtues that guide us toward inner peace. By living in alignment with these virtues, we find true happiness that cannot be shaken by external events. How to apply it? Start each day by reflecting on the 4 Stoic virtues and how you can practice them. Ask yourself, what can I do today to act with wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance? By aligning your actions with these virtues, you will build a life of meaning and peace. Your path to lasting peace and freedom. David's story is a testament to the power of Stoic philosophy. Through self-reflection, forgiveness, negative visualization, and the cultivation of virtue, he transformed his life from one of frustration and anger to one of inner peace and resilience. The lessons from his journey are not just theoretical, they are actionable principles that you can apply to your own life, starting today. As you walk the path of Stoicism, remember that you have the power to choose your responses. Life will continue to present challenges, but you have the tools to face them with clarity, wisdom, and peace. Every step you take toward emotional mastery brings you closer to the life you truly desire, one filled with meaning, fulfillment, and freedom from anger. By practicing the Stoic virtues and embracing these powerful lessons, you can create a life that is not only free from anger, but full of peace, purpose, and strength. This concludes the deep reflection on David's journey and the lessons derived from it. If you want to continue learning how to apply Stoic wisdom in your life, remember that this is just the beginning. The path to lasting peace is always unfolding. Keep practicing, keep reflecting, and keep growing. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Your transformation is already underway. Stay tuned for more content that will help you live with resilience, clarity, and peace.